So, Caleb the Coward is exploring the possibility of suing me for disagreeing with him, with his dishonesty. Sorry, Caleb, you can't sue someone for having an opinion or presenting evidence. But this video is about his dishonest debate with me. I think first and foremost, it should be, literally, if you have to mute someone so they can't answer you, you know you're wrong. And a coward. The tactic he used was simple. He removed context to misrepresent what was being said. He quoted those past movements as an attempt to steal legitimacy by invoking those movements. I disagreed that they had any relevance to what he was advocating in modern day, and that it was anti-Marxist theory. His response was to claim that I denied historical facts, that certain historical things had happened. I didn't. He's wholly dishonest and a liar by omission and misrepresentation. Then, he turns around and lies about how I responded to him. I find it interesting that he supposedly didn't know anything about the trucker protests and what the leaders of it were saying, the fascist racist conspiracy theories and the alliance with QAnon. Either he is wholly incompetent or not even looking at what the leaders were saying. So, at best, he's incompetent. At worst, he's a liar. And in my opinion, yeah, given the rest of the debate, he's a liar.
Now, what it is the part of the depopulation. And a lot of people don't understand what that means. And what there is there's an end game. It's called depopulation of the Caucasian race, or the Anglo-Saxon. And that's what the goal is to depopulate the Anglo-Saxon race. Because they are the ones with the strongest bloodlines. And we'll leave it at that, because then we get into a whole different topic. But it's a depopulation of race. Okay, that's what they want to do. I've spoken before about how we have Ahmed Ahmadinejad, or Mahmed. I can't say their names very well because I don't have the dialect that they do. But
that is Patrick King, the founder and leader of the trucker movement, that Caleb allegedly never heard of. Now, on the topic of lying, Caleb said he supports the LGBTQ community. Well, as someone who has previously spoken to him in private on that subject, that's a lie. If it was, and let's use public things, why would his second-in-command, Keaton Manning, be spreading homophobic speech? In addition, Haas and Samira Khan, also Pat Socks, are protecting the policy of Pakistan to execute people for being homosexual. If this isn't outright hate speech and defense of violence against LGBT, then literally nothing is. It is nothing short of ridiculous that anyone, including Maupin, would claim that Alexander Dugin is not a fascist. He literally founded the Nazbol Party of Russia, a fascist party. He wrote a book, The Fourth Position, claiming that past fascist movements were discredited and that something newer using a mixture of fascist and communist symbols were needed. He very openly declared that he was a fascist. He openly opposed the Soviet Union and was a member of the anti-Semitic Party. Okay? Most troubling is his twisting of Chinese quotes to deliberately misrepresent what Mao and the revolutionary China were saying. He quotes China, but leaves out important additional information which says the opposite of what he claims when it comes to quote-unquote peaceful struggle. At a time when the imperialists in the imperialist countries are armed to the teeth as never before in order to protect their savage man-eating system, can it be said that imperialism has become very peaceable towards the proletariat and the people at home and the oppressed nations, as the modern revisionists claim? And that, therefore, the extraordinarily rare opportunity in the history of revolutions that Lenin spoke about after the February Revolution will henceforth become a normal state of affairs for the proletariat and all the oppressed people of the world over, so that what Lenin referred to as a rare opportunity will hereafter be easily available to the proletariat in the capitalist countries? We hold that these views are completely groundless. It goes on. The revolutionary dictatorship of the proletariat is violence against the bourgeoisie, and the necessity for such violence is particularly created, as Marx and Engels have repeatedly explained in detail, by the existence of militarism and bureaucracy. But it is precisely these institutions that were non-existent in England and America in the 70s of the 19th century, when Marx made his observations. They do exist in England and in America now. It can thus be seen that the proletariat is compelled to resort to the means of armed revolution. Marxists have always been willing to bring about the transition to socialism by the peaceful way, as has long been the peaceful way there is to adopt. Marxist-Leninists will never give it up. But the aim of the bourgeoisie is to precisely block this way when it possesses a powerful militaristic bureaucratic machine of suppression. And finally, the question is whether the proletariat is willing to carry out a peaceful transformation. It is rather whether the bourgeoisie will accept such a peaceful transformation. This is the only way in which followers of Lenin should approach this question. So, contrary to the modern revisionists who seek to paralyze the revolutionary will of the people by empty talk about peaceful transition, Marxist-Leninists hold that the question of the possibility of peaceful transition to socialism can be raised only in the light of specific conditions obtaining in each country at a given period. The proletariat must never allow itself to one-sidedly and groundlessly base its thinking, policy, and its whole work on the assumption that the bourgeoisie is willing to accept peaceful transformation. It must, at the same time, prepare for alternatives, one for the peaceful development of the revolution and the other for non-peaceful development of the revolution. It's even obvious that Lenin rejects such petty infantile nationalism as espoused by Maupin and the Pat Sox. The working class must first constitute itself within the nation. The Communist Manifesto declares, emphasizing the limits and conditions of our recognition of nationality and fatherland as essential forms of the bourgeois system, and, consequently, of the bourgeois fatherland. The opportunists distort that truth by extending the period of the end of capitalism, that which was true of the period of its rise. With reference to the former period and the tasks of the proletariat in its struggle to destroy not feudalism but capitalism, the Communist Manifesto gives clear and precise formula. The working men have no country. One can well understand why the opportunists are so afraid to accept this socialist proposition, even afraid, in most cases, openly to reckon with it. The socialist movement cannot triumph within the old framework of the fatherland. It creates new and superior forms of human society, in which the legitimate needs and progressive aspirations of the working masses of each nationality will, for the first time, be met through international unity, provided existing national partitions are removed. To the present day, bourgeoisie's attempt to divide and disunite them by means of hypocritical appeals for defense of the fatherland, the class-conscious workers will reply with an ever new and persevering effort to unite with the workers of various nations in struggles to overthrow the rule of the bourgeoisie of all nations. The opportunists have long been preparing the ground for this collapse by denying the socialist revolution and substituting bourgeois reformism in its stead, by rejecting the class struggle within its inevitable conversion at certain moments into civil war, and by preaching class collaboration, by preaching bourgeois chauvinism under the guise of patriotism and the defense of the fatherland, and ignoring or rejecting the fundamental truth of socialism, long ago set forth in the Communist Manifesto, that working men have no country, by confining themselves in the struggle against militarism to a sentimental Philistine point of view. Instead of recognizing the need for revolutionary war by the proletarians of all countries against the bourgeoisie of all countries, by making a fetish of the necessary utilization of bourgeois parliamentarism and bourgeois legality, and forgetting that illegal forms of organization and propaganda are imperative at times of crises. I don't expect intellectually dishonest cretins to actually check Maupin's alleged research. It's important to note that he completely dodged the information Yankee Tanky exposed. Note how he just mentioned the personal issues that he had with someone, but completely dodged the criticisms of the organization that he had. A coward's tactic. Yankee Tanky gave information on Maupin, and that he was running a cult, according to him. The point for him is to sue anyone who disagrees with him. That way, he can silence any disagreement or calling him out on his revisionism. It's a bully tactic, and I'd bet my bottom dollar that he threatened to sue Yankee Tanky for exposing his organization. Everything here is indicative of a narcissistic personality disorder. I'd even suspect Caleb to be a sociopath, but that's just my opinion. It's plainly apparent for all to see that I think Caleb Maupin is a closeted fascist petty bourgeois radical whom is happy to throw his support behind white nationalist so-called revolutions, which he'll somehow change from the inside. If only he was in Germany in the 1920s, maybe he could have changed the Nazis from the inside.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.